Lunacy has many forms, and Hong Kong is not immune to lunacy. I've lived in Hong Kong for quite a bit now. And when you read the South China Morning Post, you just gotta laugh once in a while. Let's take a look at Mr. Alex Lowe and his take. And he's a senior writer at the South China Morning Post. All right, so what is your take, Mr. Alex Lowe? Well, the wealth gap widens in Hong Kong education. So, he talks about how he recently took his kids out of an international school after almost a decade because he couldn't afford the school fees anymore. Tragic. Now, he is paying over $200,000 a year per student. He has 2 children. And it's not affordable for someone in the middle class. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Now, he says something strange here. He says, well, I made a little bit of money. Well, is it value for money? Well, who knows? Okay, you don't know. All right, let's take a look at the next sentence. If local public schools had offered what my wife and I wanted for our kids, we would have never bothered with international schools. Okay, so you do know that it was value for money because you paid it. Let's think about it this way. When someone goes to McDonald's for 10 years in a row, or close to 10 years, and you ask them, well, did you get value for your money? It would be impossible for them to say, well, who knows? Because, by definition, the person is satisfied. I mean, if you see the guy who goes to McDonald's continuously over 10 years, they must like what McDonald's is giving them. Now, we all know McDonald's food is unhealthy. But we also know that it's convenient, there's lots of stores, it's cheap, it tastes good, it's fast. So there is value there. And it's the same thing here. You put your kids in international schools for almost 10 years, paying $400K or so a year, by the way, which is not chump change. So you saw value for it. And we have to keep in mind, too, that this $400,000 is after taxes. Because you have to pay for taxes first, which are in theory to fund for local schools that you try to avoid for so long for your children. So you saw even extra value, because I assume you did some research on why you wanted to do that, right? No one would spend $400,000 a year on something they thought was worthless, right? So, the problem is there's not a lot of alternatives. Okay, fine. A lot of people complain about the public system, okay? Now you say a lot of people complain about the public system, but most people are stuck in the public system. You had enough money to actually circumvent or go around and actually pay extra to avoid the public system. So you must believe it too. To say that other people complain about the public system is unfair, because even though it's true, you should also say that you believe it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have paid $400,000 a year to have your children avoid that cesspool of what we call education. So what is the solution, Mr. Alex Lowe? I really like to know, because you're so astute at pointing out things under your My Take column. By leaving international schools essentially unregulated, the government has helped widen the wealth gap at the root of education while leaving liberal-minded families out in the cold. Couple things. Liberal-minded families, I have no idea what this has to do with anything, because it doesn't matter what kind of minded you are. In theory, all people are paying taxes for, in theory, services, which are abysmal, by the way, but you do get them. So it doesn't matter if you're liberal-minded or conservative-minded or no-minded or an IQ of 1 million or IQ of 10. In theory, you're supposed to get access to these services regardless. So I'm not sure what this means. The second thing is, he says that basically the schools are unregulated. The international schools are unregulated. And this is the key point, that they're unregulated. And then look, and this is why he can't send his kids to international schools, Is that really the reason why? Think about what you're saying. We have one or a few last vestiges of education where people can choose to go there, and they have to pay for it. And it's not regulated. So what we need more regulation by the same people who made the public school system that You had your 2 children avoid for almost 10 years at more than $400,000 a year. Does this not seem like a contradiction to you? Does this not seem like a double standard or double think? I will repeat. You didn't like the public schools. Now, you cover it up as other people complained, but actually you didn't put them in public schools, so you also believe that as well. Then you put them in an international school, which you then paid for more than $400,000 for out of your own after-tax money for them to attend. Because that wasn't regulated. But because now the price is too high for you, now you want them to regulate it. Because they did such a great job with the public school system. What the fuck are you thinking, man? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know if you see the hypocrisy in your statements here. It makes absolutely no sense. We know that competition drives prices lower and quality higher. That's why we don't have a Bureau of Restaurants. I hope it doesn't come anytime soon. We don't have a Bureau of Textiles that must decide and set the prices for all the jeans you buy and all the socks you buy. Because you have to understand, businesses have a risk-reward motive and ratio. If I'm McDonald's and I provide bad service and bad products, I go out of business. Governments do not have this essential dichotomy. They don't. What ends up happening is the government just taxes more money out of the people, prints more money out of the system, or borrows more money and indebts future citizens. It can't go out of business by definition. So they don't have the same reason to provide good quality education or things that you like. If you wanted a public school to give you more sports programs or musical programs or better teachers or smaller class sizes, by definition they can't do that because they don't give a shit. They can't give a shit because they take your money by force and you have no choice. You gotta go to the school. The only way to avoid the school was like what you did, is after they've taken your money, is if you still have enough, then you can avoid the school system by paying even more money to private individuals that do give you what you want. If you want more French languages, they'll more language lessons, they can give that to you. If you want a swimming pool, they'll give that to you. If you whatever you want, they'll try to attune to your needs to provide you the best quality and best price, because if they don't, you'll go to another school. But in the public school, it's not like that. So Mr. Lowe, think about it. The answer can't be we need more people who screwed up the system to screw up the system even more.